What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 6 of season 1 of We're Watching The Watchmen, the show where we discuss in depth the HBO series Watchmen. My name Eric Madsen. I'm here at Flicksation Studios, P City, Wisco, recording 2 days before Thanksgiving here. So this show should be out on Thanksgiving at some point. You'll probably not hear it till after that, I'm sure. I don't know if any of you are planning your holiday around us. If you are, happy Thanksgiving. But if you catch us afterwards, hopefully you had a good holiday. I am joined on my right by Christian Estabrook from San Francisco, California. Christian, how are things?
Oh, hi there. Welcome back.
What a great Asian accent that is, Christian. Fantastic.
At least you caught what I was going for there. It wasn't all juicy lines. This episode. This episode's a little different, as we'll surely discuss. But
more on the visual side this time.
Yeah, so. I was scrambling for a quote, so that's what I got.
And Chad Colt from Reedsburg, Wisconsin. Chad, welcome to the program.
Oh, hi there. Oh, never mind. I can't do it. Yeah, I'm ready to. This should be an interesting episode. Definitely a different type of episode, and lots of changes from I don't know if you want to call it the norm, if there is a norm for Watchmen, but should be some interesting conversation around this one.
Indeed. So yeah, we talk about the HBO series Watchmen here. We spoil everything up through episode 6. This, which just aired, this one called This Extraordinary Being. We do not watch the coming soon previews after the show, so you won't have to worry about any spoilers coming from there. We do make predictions. They don't always go so well. So you can contact the show via email, watchwatchmanpod@gmail.com. We have a voicemail line you can call or text anytime. That is 608-535-9302. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter or Instagram at PodWatchmen. Come interact with us on social media. It will be a blast, guys. All right, so speaking of email, let's start out the show here before we talk about episode 6 with a couple of emails that came in recently. So, Chad, you have an email there from listener Anna, I believe.
Yeah, Anna Claire. Anna Claire says, let Saigons be Saigons. And then she says, hello, friends. After a couple of weeks of arthritis pain, I'm back on the correspondence train. I also listened to another of Christian's podcasts, It's Only a Podcast. And when I heard he was part of Watchmen Cast, I had to jump on board. I was the anonymous IG writer a few weeks back, and due to stress and the fact that it's snowed twice already in Illinois, we're right there with you, Anna. We're not too far away. Corresponding hasn't been super easy lately. That being said, I love the podcast. I rarely branch out from the usual podcasts I listen to, but not a lot of those have talked about Watchmen in depth. Already being a fan of Christian opened the door, but I can definitely say that I am also a solid Eric and Chad fan now as well. Thanks for giving us great discourse to listen to each week. A little heart emoji with a carrot and a 3, by the way. I should mention that. I also have one long-term ponder for you. I don't know why exactly I'm drawn to thinking this, but I think Lady True has some connection to the squid. Also, I think her daughter is being experimented on with nostalgia pills, as we hear in episode 5 that they're known to cause psychosis. Anyway, thank you guys for being a delight each week. Warm Thanksgiving wishes, Anna Claire. P.S. Angela's Bakery is called Milk in Hanoi. So there we go. We were like, we didn't know. Yeah. So Anna to the rescue. So yeah, thanks, Anna. It's a very interesting ponder. What are your guys' thoughts on Lady True and the nostalgia pills?
Could be.
Might as well
be.
Yeah, it's possible. It's a fun prediction.
So, Christian, I appreciate people being fans of you. So
me too.
They can be fans of us. Yeah. Good work.
Anna Claire joins from the extended Christian podcast universe.
What's the
Great.
continuity there? We're going to have to talk about that at some point, Christian. All right. Thanks, Anna. Great email. We hope to hear from you again. We have another email, guys. This one I didn't really see coming. This one from Glenn. I don't believe there is a location given here. But Glenn says, "Hey, dudes, I get all the Watchmen references, but why does this show have so much Superman stuff in it? It's a bit confusing to me. Any thoughts?" And he gives a few points of reference here. So we have the Clark farm. A bunch of these are from the Lady True episode, that one scene specifically. But the Clark farm, that couple, they were the Clarks, okay? All they wanted to have was a baby, just like the Kents. We see the pod falling from the sky, just kind of like Superman in that scene as well. This episode specifically, Christian, Will comes across a newsstand where Action Comics #1 is hanging out, and he's kind of reading it, and the guy's excited about the man in tights that's fighting crime with superpowers and stuff. So we get Action Comics directly mentioned in this one, and he says Cal, obviously. Not spelled the same as Kal-El, but definitely Cal. So, and on. What say ye, Glenn? So, interesting.
Glenn's been paying attention. Wow. I didn't pick up on all those.
It's a good thread. I think when I was picking up on it, it was mostly just in that one farm scene. But there's been more beyond that. I didn't connect Cal with that. That's maybe the biggest stretch in that thread, but it still fits. I'm with it. I can see that angle. Put a tiny pin in this one because it may come back around for Christian Ponders. But largely the bigger picture, I would probably at this point chalk it up to what I was saying. I think the previous episode or the one before, I forget things, with my egg theory, that Damon Lindelof and company know that the audience is going to be looking for and probably wants Easter eggs. So they put a lot of references or things in there just because they know we're looking. And then they feature literal eggs as just being self-aware of, hey, we're putting in Easter eggs, but for good measure, we're going to throw in actual eggs as well. I think that could extend to Superman and not just Watchmen stuff. So that's my main thought, but I'll have more thoughts later.
Yeah, and that totally works. I mean, maybe Damon Lindelof just loves Superman.
He's a big fan. Yeah, that's kind of was my thought.
But definitely interesting. I felt I guess the pod thing really reminded me of Superman, but I guess I didn't really catch the rest of that stuff the first time around. So that's interesting. Cal, definitely a stretch, I think, but it's hard to argue against it, I guess.
I mean, it could be named Calvin with a K, and then we really could have sealed the deal, but not the case.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards maybe they're just fans of Superman, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, they're both DC, right? So I guess, they can't be the same world. There's just no way. But I guess in some weird twisted way, since this is a twisted version of our timeline, there could be a Superman-esque character, but not in real life, you wouldn't think. But maybe.
Well, but the Superman-esque character is supposed to be Dr. Manhattan, right? Like, he's like
should be stronger,
all-powerful, godlike character, right? Like,
but to the best of our knowledge, he doesn't have a kryptonite,
Right.
But I don't know. I say very interesting, and he's definitely paying attention.
Yeah.
Dr. Manhattan's kryptonite is existential crises.
Oh, yeah.
Mine too.
Just giving a shit is kryptonite. So, I guess I will say, Glenn, that I'll probably be hypersensitive from this point forward on Superman references. So we'll see. We will see. All right, so let's start out the show by talking about our Christian Ponders from last week, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Frankly, I'm surprised we got one in here. So I believe there was one score this evening, but let's take a look back and see what we've got. Christian, your first one, Vite Timeline Info. This is my shorthand, so what did you mean by that?
Yeah, I meant that we would know when the Vite sequences take place, if it's happening concurrently with, the Angela and Lori and all that storyline, or if it was before or after. Obviously, that did not happen. No Vite, a Viteless episode.
That may be the most surprising part. I guess even if I figured, which I sort of did, that something like this would happen for this episode, I still would have thought there'd be some Vite. Yeah, for sure.
Same.
All right, Christian, we did not go inside the Millennium Clock.
Yeah.
But you did score with Angela is going to live out Will's memories, or a memory of Will's, or something. So I'm pretty sure we got that in spades.
I think he even said we'll see her like morph into him and out of him, something like that. And I'm like, holy shit, he's on.
Either way, there you go, Christian.
2 points.
2 points added to your current 8. So hitting double figures already.
10 points. So, let's go.
So before we get into mine, I got a question, which obviously I didn't get any of them. But if I double down, we can still get points from the previous week, right? So in theory, I could get more points for the same answers, right?
I'm fine with that, because that's pretty risky maneuver. That could leave you with Zippo.
I'm thinking about it.
Mm.
Christian, you'll have to give a ruling. We'll let you think till the Christian Ponder segment. I'm okay with it, but you give it some thought. All right, Chad, and we'll talk about our long term here at the end. But Chad, your 3, your first prediction was Wade lives.
I said Looking Glass. You said Wade, but pairs.
Don't know. Needless to say, we do not know.
We do not know.
Definitely could be worth at least a point next week. You thought Angela was going to open up to Lori in some way here. Don't think we got that. So
did say specifically about Judd.
Yep. And you went to Viteland for number 3, so we know that didn't happen. You thought he would challenge and probably defeat the Game Warden in some regard here. So definitely all 3 of those could be in play next week.
Yeah, that one went about as well as my Twitter challenge this week, which we'll talk about later.
All right. I had another 0, so I'm still yet to get on the board. But I also predicted that Wade would survive. Thinking we'd have a heavy Angela episode, I went with thinking Topher was going to visit her in prison and probably show some kind of ability. Nothing there. And Pirate Jenny was going down, I thought, guys. Just a random pull there. Not happening. So, all right, 0 for me. Long term, we're still all unscored here in long term. Christian, your cavalry date, not there yet. Not much progress in that department here. But
nope.
You're still pretty close, I feel like. Chad, you switched to Vite is in the statue.
Yeah. Nothing yet.
We've got nothing there. And
little shout out to my one of my options that I should have gone with. It should have been smart enough to just go with it. Will Reeves is a super you know of Hooded Justice. So.
Well, and
no points.
In my long term, I was on the right track, but whiffed completely on this one. I speculated that Will was going to turn out to be Dollar Bill. So.
Oh no.
No. Sad. So. Hey, gave it a shot. So we'll talk about our future Christian Ponders at the end of this episode, where I will remind you, gentlemen, this night you must lock in your long-term ponders for the duration. So, of course, the long-term is worth 5 points. I decided arbitrarily to lock it down in the after the sixth episode, because there's only 3 left. It gets a little hard to call something for 1 or 2 episodes down the way, just a long term. So, gotta lock it in tonight. So, think it over, guys. Think it over.
Yeah.
All right, episode 6, This Extraordinary Being. I was definitely going around the critical community that this was a game-changing type of episode. I think we definitely could say that. So it's not going to be a standard rundown this evening. I will probably bullet point some of the things that go on, but otherwise I think it's just kind of a rolling discussion we'll have about this episode. So definitely a little bit different, not at all what we were used to, sort of what we were expecting. And plot-wise, yeah, I'd like to, I guess in our general opening thoughts here, Christian, was most of this a surprise plot-wise for you, or did you see some of this? Because I've actually on Twitter seen a lot of people, and we'll just get it out of the way right now, okay? Will is Hooded Justice.
Yeah.
So it seems like a lot of people on Twitter act like they knew that all along. So I remember Chad predicting that early on, but I had no inkling. I mean, I was completely fooled by this.
Yeah, I was high-fiving between past me and past Chad, because I said all the way back on like episode 1 that Will was a super, and at some point Chad said that Will was Hooded Justice. So in the past, we're high-fiving. We don't get any points or anything for it, but felt good. But no, I wasn't really...
High five's worth it.
I wasn't really considering that. I wonder, because I think press had up to this episode, right, Eric? I think press was pre-screened up to 6, so I'm guessing that's probably was leaked and people read that. That's a terrible thing. Just sidebar rant about when there's like review copies out there, is information gets out there and then a bunch of dweebs act like it's a prediction when they already know because it was leaked just to themselves or to someone else. That's a shitty thing about TV when it's released weekly like this is. But anyway, no, I had no idea. I had no idea what was coming this episode. I mean, I did, as I said last week, I had a pretty good feel for what the episode was going to be. That's why it was kind of tough to give predictions besides the one that I hit, because I was expecting Angela, Will, memories for basically the whole episode. I did think it was going to be a little bit trippier. The sequel, like the scene when there's a couple of scenes where like there's a long camera shot. There's one in particular in the police precinct where it's like one shot and it shows the actor who plays Will and then Angela and then Will again. That was pretty weird. Or when she's stuck in air and Lori starts talking to her from the future. Stuff like that. I thought there was going to be a little bit more of that, because there's long stretches where it's straight up just Will's story from the past.
And I liked that. That's what I liked about it, actually.
But guys, I mean, I'll hear your thoughts here in a moment, but this episode's fantastic. I was just going gaga the last episode about how it was the best of the show, and I think they outdid themselves again, maybe a week later. I thought this episode was fantastic. I thought the execution, I thought the ideas, I thought the boldness with which they're using existing Watchmen stuff. I don't want to cut Chad out, but Eric, I know you and I have been, we've been on the Watchmen train for so long. And for us to get this kind of Hooded Justice backstory, like a retcon of who Hooded Justice is and an explanation for why Hooded Justice is who he is, I never could have imagined. I think it's bold as hell and it's satisfying as hell. Like, I'm through the roof.
Yeah.
Like this not only was a great episode, standalone episode, and a great progression of this story, but it actually retroactively goes back to one of the greatest pieces of arts of all time. pieces of art of all time, and kind of makes it better. like this even enriches the older material, because having this, if we take this as the canonical version of this character, it just adds more depth and richness to this universe. So I'm through the roof. This is essential storytelling in this universe, I think.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think the writing on this, I've kind of thought this all along, but as the things unfold that do in this episode, and like I was thinking about it between like my first and second watches, it's like, man, it's absolutely brilliant. It's like you kind of let into it, but it's like, I don't think Alan Moore had this in mind, but they use like the openings he left with Hooded Justice so perfectly. It's just, and then you look, like, pulled up the book and I was paging through and I'm like, of course that's why he's wearing this noose and this hood and shit. It's like,
it's wild.
Of course. It just blew my mind. So
it'll be interesting to reread the book.
Yeah, I think, man, it's so good, because some shows are gonna force this crappy exposition on you because they have to, but these guys figure out how to do it with this nostalgia angle, which is just a morsel that they pulled out of the book and made into this fantastic fucking thing we get here. So it's, oh man, just the imagery instead of the exposition is so good. I love like the little touches, like the piano lady, that's his mother or whatever. Every time he's in like extreme emotional duress. So good. Just the thought, guys. So, and we'll get into this later, I'm sure, again, but as we see how like phony, or at least Captain Metropolis in particular, but how phony most of these masked vigilantes were, just, fame freaks or whatever. I mean, not only is Hooded Justice like the first, he's like the only sincere guy out there, at least one of the only sincere guys out there. And the fact that he's got to he doesn't even just have to wear a mask, he's got to wear a second mask.
Yeah.
And roll into the fact that he's gay or bisexual or whatever he is. Man, this is unbelievable, I think, how this played out. So it's hard to even explain how much I like this show right now.
Yeah.
And we were just hoping it wasn't going to be terrible, guys. And
go back and listen to the first episode of this podcast. We're like, meh, I don't know. I mean, I hope it's okay. I hope it's as good as Zack Snyder's movie. Oh my God. Like where we've come, like seriously, this HBO series makes the book better. Like it's such a beautiful like continuation. And because we see all sorts of things that continue on old properties, right? Like I saw Terminator Dark Fate, and like that's just a rot example, because pretty much every time a sequel after T2 comes out, like they just completely fuck with the universe and the storyline and the timeline and kill characters off or add characters, or it just doesn't make any sense. Like people have these ideas of like, oh, well, what if we do this years later with an existing property, and a lot of the time it's terrible, or even if it's palatable, like with some of the Star Wars stuff, it's cheesy. Like even if it works, it's kind of like, well, yeah, okay. Like that's why I liked Last Jedi so much, because it broke the mold of having to reference everything. But here's an example of taking a property that's over 30 years old and being like having such a knowledge of the material and what it meant, but also was able to not just connect it plot wise, but theme wise, and build a whole web, a whole tapestry of things. Not just, oh, we'll include this character here and that character there, but put meaning and a purpose behind all of it. And now, like Eric, like you said, Hooded Justice was the first and only sincere, and now from my perspective, because I'm accepting this as a continuation of the story, I know that in this universe, that the concept of putting on a mask and fighting villains was because the impetus for that was a response to a racist act, to an almost lynching. That's what set off the entire concept of masked heroes in this universe. And to have like that huge of a culture shift, of a world shaking shift into what this whole thing means in this universe, that's where it all started. Like I can't overstate like how huge of a shift this feels, and I think it's perfect. Like I have no qualms with it whatsoever.
Yeah, I didn't really think of that, but I guess that's like the break from our reality to the Watchmen reality, I guess. Is that
him hanging on that tree, and then what he does immediately after, that's what starts this whole thing in motion.
All right, we beamed a little bit here, Chad. Your overall thoughts on this thing?
I enjoyed it. I can't say I'm probably at the level as you guys. Like I mentioned this to you earlier, Eric, just before the show, that it's sort of like this is our episode 8 for this series, if that makes sense to anybody else out there listening. I know it'll make sense to you guys. Obviously, with a lot more talking. It was artsy. I really liked it. I really liked the use of like the black and white, and I didn't mind the transitions from like her to Will and back and forth. And I also didn't mind her coming out with Laurie kind of talking to her through the hazy look. That didn't bother me at all. I was glad they didn't do that one a bunch of times, but I enjoyed it. And one of the things about learning about Will and about Hooded Justice, it's almost a sad story in a way, because, and not just because of obviously racism is sad, obviously a lot of these other things are sad, but because he had to live his whole life almost as a lie. Anything from his sexual orientation to just to be he was this masked hero who also painted around his eyes white. Do you know what I'm saying? To even some of that was a lie. So it was sort of an interesting juxtaposition to see, and I think we learned a lot about who he is as a character. And what we don't know now is what's sort of changed after that, because the Will we see now, the guy in the wheelchair, the guy seems like the same guy, but there's also seems to be something different about him. And there's also the fact that he's somehow lived to be 105 years old. So it's like, what kind of deals has he made since then? Did he compromise himself, or did he make too many, or any, or did he? I don't know. Did he make too many? Did he not make any compromises? I don't know how to say it. Or just who is he now?
Like,
I guess,
Chad, I feel like he feels to me pretty consistent with the post snap Will.
Yeah, I can see that.
So at least that's what it felt like to me. But
it's going to be it's also going to be interesting, because then there's this whole story about the mother says which we'll talk about later, I'm out of here, you're not coming along. So we obviously know how Angela wouldn't know about her grandfather. We obviously know that at some point in time one of the family members moved to Saigon or whatever, Vietnam. And I don't know. It was a very good episode. Definitely not what we expected. Like we said, we didn't get the bite land, any of that stuff. And I think it was a lot of pleasant stuff that was unexpected. So I like the history episodes. Do you know what I'm saying? Where you learn something about a character. Like the episode before that was really, really, really glass driven. So it was. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what next week brings, because they've kind of got to bring it back into the fold and to reality, quote unquote, off the nostalgia, and back with reality.
Yeah, next week gonna be crazy. So let's dive into the bullet points a little bit as we start the episode. You kind of get the hammer right away. That you're going to be spending time in the past as the Watchmen logo transitions over to the Minutemen logo. We have the little quick intro here of the American hero story TV version of Hooded Justice, meeting with these FBI guys, threatening him for his connections to Captain Metropolis and videos that include him in sexual acts with him. And apparently there's videos of other guys with the Captain, including J. Edgar Hoover, but it's not, because he's not a you-know-what. So, Christian, do you get the kind of ironic real-world connection to what you know what I'm talking about when I mention something like that in this scene?
Ironic real-world.
Kind of a meta thing. So, none of us are probably real big Ryan Murphy guys. And so you know who that is, right, Christian? If I say Ryan Murphy.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So he's got those shows, American Horror Story, that kind of thing. You specifically mentioned the OJ thing on an earlier episode. So my wife watches American Horror Story enough where I did catch on to this little Easter egg here, sort of. So the American Hero Story clearly aping the Ryan Murphy type of TV shows. So when the guy that's actually Hooded Justice in the TV show, as he unmasks, this guy's name is Cheyenne Jackson, and he's in pretty much all the Ryan Murphy stuff. So that's kind of a little fun wink there. To that. So
I love that.
I wondered who he was the whole time. I'm like, so why did that, like, other than the fact that he's white, and like, what was that all about? So that makes more sense.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
I haven't watched any of those shows, so
I've only seen the first episode of the first season of American Horror Story. Tried to watch the OJ thing, but couldn't do with all the like David Schwimmer and whatnot in that. So I bailed. But when this TV Hooded Justice takes off his mask, my sister was like, so you don't recognize him, right? Because she's always nervous about being out of the loop on something that's like a reference. And I was like, nope, I have no idea who that is. So we're in the same boat. Don't worry.
Okay. So, yeah, fun stuff there. Violent scene again here. And we do, I think, we'll talk about it, but I think we get some evidence on how kind of Hollywood bullshit this Minutemen TV show thing turns out to be. So who knows if anything like this ever even happened in the real Watchmen timeline or whatever. But clears out a couple FBI guys that are assholes, by the way. But
yeah, sex stuff.
Yeah. Us Americans and the damn sex stuff. All right, so I guess next thing we get is Angela and Lori, as Angela is kind of slipping into this nostalgia coma. Lori's giving us the quick exposition on like how nostalgia works. We find out that obviously Lady True now owns the rights to nostalgia and stuff with the whatever. She's trying to get her to sign this waiver. So I guess my biggest question here in this front scene, or this scene here, is where are you guys at with which way is Lori coming from here? So I know there was some talk back in episode 3 on this podcast that maybe she was in cahoots with the senator, the way that conversation went down and stuff. Are you still leaning that way? I mean, it seems like she has genuine concern for Angela here, but is that for a means to an end? Is that because she's actually concerned about her? I don't know. I'm just trying to read Lori here. We've seen plenty of her here, but it's still kind of tough. I mean, she's still really pushing that Eddie Blake thing. But
this version of Lori, unlike in the book, is it's hard to really think that she takes anybody serious other than maybe herself, and maybe she didn't take herself that serious. I mean, listen to the jokes she tells on the phone. But anyhow, I don't know. I want to think that she does have a genuine care, because was she trying to get her to sign something so that they could like provide medical care?
Yeah, they couldn't apparently they couldn't pump her stomach of the pills without her signing
consent.
a waiver or something.
Okay.
So my question is she concerned about Angela? Is she concerned that, well, if she dies, then I'm screwed and I don't have any way to get information or whatever? Or
yeah, I think she's definitely in case solving mode. Like that's her primary thing, not necessarily Angela as an individual, but Angela and how she relates to everything she's trying to sort out. That's what I get. But I don't know. I'm still big picture kind of waiting to see how things connect, because we saw the senator with the cavalry in the last episode, but I don't know. There was also that like episode that ended with old Will saying TikTok, which we've only seen the cavalry people do, and he did that with Lady True. So how are they connected? I thought that there was a Lori thing with the senator, so they can't all be connected to the cavalry, obviously. But who is and to what degree, I'm still completely lost on.
And now we have another angle is this Cyclops, the umbrella under which everything is running.
Right. Which, I'm glad you brought that up, because this whole Cyclops thing that we see over the course of this episode, I'm not crazy, right? Like Cyclops, that's like a Squid reference also. Doesn't somebody say Cyclops?
I don't know.
Earlier in the show, in reference to the squid, I could have swore that happened, but I couldn't remember when.
Well, how many eyes did the squid have? Did it only have one eye?
It only had one eye. Well, maybe they didn't say squid, but maybe it was in like the what's the meeting, the self-help group thing. Someone said like that one-eyed monster, that one-eyed thing, or that something like I swear someone referred to it and characterized it by having one eye. So. Maybe is that just like a random Easter egg connection that people can point towards, or does this Cyclops thing lead all the way up to Vite? That's
a good question.
Did that influence him somehow, or did he take over the Cyclops thing at some point? And I don't know. I think that's possible, or maybe it's just a nod.
Yeah. Or are Cyclops people keeping Vite in check for some reason? Who knows? I guess before we get into the actual flashback sequence, I will say the best thing about this nostalgia is it's a good thing it runs chronologically. So
if they had jumped around, it could have been interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
How that works, but
she takes a bottle full of pills and then she experiences it all chronologically. Good point.
All right, but
Well, also, Will, I mean, are all the memories in one pill? Because when he takes it, he takes one like at random. So maybe all the memories are in one pill, and it's just like, oh yeah, I remember that. But if you take all the pills, then you have like this trippy out of body experience.
Yeah.
I mean, how pissed off is Grandpa going to be that all the pills are gone? I mean, I hit all my Grandpa's golf balls off into a cornfield once, and he was pissed. So definitely wasn't his pills, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure this was a setup. So they definitely meant for her to take these pills. I don't know if they meant for her to take them all like that, but they definitely thought she was going to take them. And we start the flashback sequences with. Will getting his badge. We see him passed over by the white sergeant or whatever. The black guy that presents him with his badge warns him to beware of the Cyclops and gives the OK symbol on his head. So we can pretty much talk about all this early cop stuff as one thing. I don't know if it's the first day on the job or whatever, but he sees the dude burning up the Jewish deli or whatever, takes him into jail. We see the Cyclops symbol from guys out on the street the next day. The other cops then want to take him for a ride. We know how that all goes. Ends up hanging from a tree. They let him go. Said next time we're gonna make sure and finish the job. And then the dawn of justice, as we will say, as he pokes the holes in the hood, dons it, and saves the white couple from the thugs on the street, and they are very appreciative of it. So I guess before we move to his return home, what did you think, Christian? You're just kind of getting up to speed at this point, but yeah, it's definitely kicking into gear here, Christian.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have some more thoughts after the next big Hooded Justice kind of fight scene, but through this point, I'm still like processing this episode in how different it is from the others. I mean, you have the black and white through most of it, and then you have like how far this episode is willing to go. Like there's a conversation about Will being like an Uncle Tom because he is one of the only black police officers in that area, and kind of like questioning, you know, his place and how he'll be received and what it all means for him to be in that position. That I found just like a really challenging thought. That's, you know, just another layer, another element that I'm surprised that this show is willing to go to and works that into the overall story. But yeah, I mean, and we talked a lot at the beginning about these kind of trippy dream memory sequences and how they all work. But in form, like it's fast. The show has such a kind of distinct style. Like in this, I don't know what Reznor and Atticus Ross had to do with the music for this episode because we don't have that normal score, but instead we get this like chaotic jazz that like underscores certain moments. It happens more towards later in the episode, but it almost reminded me of that movie Birdman, where they like there's the guy drumming like literally in the building and they cut to him at times, but it's just like this cacophonous jazzy sound in the background. So just from front to back, this episode's completely different, and it's willing to just bring up the Uncle Tom idea and a lynching and the cops dragging bodies behind the car, just going so far and seemingly not having any shyness or any nervousness about bringing up some really grueling topics. So yeah, it's big stuff, and seeing Will come home with the noose and knowing that that's going to be his costume was a pretty powerful moment in and of itself.
All right, so yeah, he gets home, discusses with Sally, is her name, what kind of just went on. It's up a couple of days or whatever, because there's the story in the paper. The news is calling him a hero, and they both kind of decide on the fact that if you're going to get any justice done, this is pretty much the way you're going to have to do it, because the cop thing's not working out. So, yeah, so part of what gets him in the hood and on the street is the positive reaction to it, I think, which eventually leads him to getting a visit from who turns out to be Captain Metropolis at his house, asking him to join the Minutemen, basically. Not sure it's really clear how... Do they ever really divulge here, Christian, how he figures out? Or is that just kind of, we just go with that, I guess? I know he says something about, well, we know he must be connected to a cop or something somehow. But
yeah, other than that, I don't think it's really explained. Maybe HJ wasn't covering up his tracks too well when he was out there beating up bad guys. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems maybe it was a warning for him to do a better job of keeping that quiet. But Captain Metropolis basically talks him into joining the Minutemen. We pretty much learn that the Minutemen need to be validated, so they need hooded justice. But we clearly right away see where the priorities lie, as Hooded Justice has his Cyclops thing, which is actually going on, and Metropolis just turns the public appearance to something about a supervillain with a death ray or something. So
Yeah, he kind of like tasks him like, "Hey, I got this from here."
yeah, so that's where you really get that these guys are just out there for the press and all this other stuff. But
yeah, and dollar bill sponsored government bonds.
yeah. Yeah, and we also get that terribly racist ad with Dollar Bill beating up that black guy in that picture.
Yeah.
So bad one, but yeah, Hooded Justice, the only real guy out there, man. And I just want to. This is where my note. In my notes, I stressed that I just thought it was pretty amazing how intricately they went in and, just used what more left open for Hooded Justice, who there isn't a lot said about him, but I mean, we find out that Captain Metropolis knew who he was here in this show, but nobody ever knew who he was. Yeah, you never saw him without the mask. Didn't really know much about him at all, so left it open enough to where, the way they build him in this is pretty fantastic. So, and yeah, like you said, very bold. That you would mess with stuff that would actually affect Moore's work. So the fact that not only was it good, but yeah, I didn't really think of this until you said it, Christian, but the fact that it actually retroactively makes the source material better, it just kind of blows your mind.
Kind of makes you wonder what Alan Moore and like Dave Gibbons think about it.
Yeah,
well
Dave Gibbons would talk about it for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right, couple of things that I'll just whiz by here. I think, the scene, which is, I believe, what we're supposed to glean from this is the Hooded Justice thing we saw earlier on in the season with the thing at the delicatessen. Is this how it actually happened?
Yeah, that's what I had notes about. So he goes and follows up on some Cyclops stuff and beats up a bunch of fools. And this is right before we get Hooded Justice thrown out the window and the whole Angela Lordy thing. But as he's fighting around here, we get into the deli area. We see lettuce featured prominently. That got a chuckle out of me. But this whole sequence, it was I do think it was meant to echo that other scene. It's like early on we get the American Hero story version, which is very stylized and pulpy and ultra violent and completely meaninless and vapid. Like there's no point behind it at all. And then we get this version that actually gives us the context for the violence, because this episode is violent too, but it's like it has more weight behind it because we understand where the character is at and what it means to fight these other individuals. So I felt like that was a deliberate point that they were making, that the American Hero story is just kind of senseless violence, and here, you can tell that kind of story that actually means something, because that's what they do over the course of this episode. And
that's some of the best visuals in this too, is the freeze as he's flying through the window. We switch to Angela there, and that's kind of where I think where they give her the adrenaline shot or whatever.
Right.
So that's where we get the blink. We get our little Cal visit for the episode here too, but almost comes out of it, but goes right back into it. So we get to, next up is Officer Will arriving at the gruesome theater scene. We get the horrible words from the cops outside. I'm not going to repeat them. They're just shitty to hear. So long story short, we find out that the Cyclops guys are using some kind of diamonds or something like that to manipulate film into basically, they call it mesmerizing, but they're basically hypnotizing, giving special projectors to these like all black theaters and hypnotizing them to kill each other, fight amongst themselves and stuff. So that's what we learned before we get to the actual kind of climactic scene here. Our first person walk through the warehouse, but it's jumping ahead a little bit, but it's almost kind of like the same manner that Will turns into Hooded Justice, just kind of by accident. This one's a little more conniving, but as he like steals the projector, and then we see later on that it's basically what he uses to have Judd kill himself. Pretty diabolical. But
he held on to those techniques for quite a long time.
Yeah. So
I also think it's talking about the bold choices in this episode. Again, if you kind of explain what the implications of this are, what this plot line is saying is that, race riots or extreme examples of black on black crime or murder, that's also the KKK's fault. Like that's what the implication of this is, that it's you see this from the cops perspective or the media perspective. We don't get into that, but if you extrapolate, it's like this is what it looks like from the outside, but it's really this racist sect that's behind it all and is really to blame for it, which I liked that again. And another one where I was just like, wow, they're saying that, like that's what they're willing to say. It's good stuff.
All right, so we get to the breaking point here as Will kind of figures out from afar what's going on with the film projectors. He follows them back to a warehouse where he calls Captain Metropolis to try and get the Minutemen involved, and Metropolis pretty much just laughs at him for being crazy. So just come on over, let's just forget it, whatever. So that's when Will figures out he's pretty much on his own here.
He's on his own.
Throws the hood on while wearing the cop uniform. Shoots the recurring racist, we'll call him here in the show. Takes out all the guys en route in a pretty nice continuous camera first person sequence that was pretty well done. Comes up on the cop that's pretty much been the spearhead in the episode as he's recording more hypnotic bullshit films or whatever, and chokes him off, takes him out, goes home. That's when the wife decides she's leaving because he's upset seeing his kid get kind of tangled up in admiration for Hooded Justice. So that's where the split happens. Yeah, we transition into Judd's murder here, which is kind of fascinating as well. So we'll get to the very last 30 seconds or whatever yet at the end here, but this is a pretty great scene here, Christian. I mean, I hate to praise a violent scene, but it's really well done, and it really establishes the break for Will here.
Yeah, I think similar to what I was saying about the deli sequence. I think these old Will memory kind of fight scenes or action scenes, they give you the context that makes it work on multiple levels. Like you can watch something like the American hero story sequence and appreciate, like that's well done, or it looks slick or whatever. But here, like you have, I don't know. I mean, like for me, I was watching, I could really feel for that character, and just in this 45 minutes or whatever that led up to it, I feel like I get where this guy is emotionally, kind of swirling around his vigilantism and his home life. I think right before this we get that scene too that's really lovingly done, where we see like a passage of time. Like we see having a young kid, and then the kid grew up to be like 4 or 5 years old, all in this one long take. That was really well done, or like an artistic moment there. But you get his home life and his vigilantism and dealing with the racism and the cops and Metropolis and his sexuality and his desperation. You get all of this up into a moment, and then it's like it all unleashes. And so, but it doesn't just play like, mutilating cows, till they're a bloody pulp. Yeah. it plays, there's like I don't know, there's an emotional element to him just beating these dudes in the face rather than just a visceral one. And that's tough to do. And it's tough to do in a short amount of time, but I think they do it really well.
Okay, so when we get into the Judd's murder thing, and I guess I'm going to kind of ask the same question I did about Laurie. What is your read on Judd at this point? I feel like it's not cut and dried that he's just a complete bad guy, asshole, or whatever. I guess it doesn't make a lot of sense because I completely believe Senator Keene is a complete jack-off.
Yeah.
But right. I don't know. Something about Judd makes me feel he's a little more complex than that. But I don't know. Where you getting any reads on Judd, Christian?
No. I think I picked up the same thing as you. Like he has like a line or something where he's like, it's not what you think, or there's more to the story, or something like that, which could just be like, I'm
just trying to help people out here or something. Yeah.
Right, which could just be, a warped racist justification. Like that could be what he's getting at there, or there could be something more to that, and that is something. There is something else going on that we haven't seen yet. But yeah, I mean, if, like you said, like if Keene and him were on the same side at all, that wouldn't look good. Like, maybe Keene ends up being more complex, but it doesn't seem like it. He seems like the most cartoonishly bad guy of the show thus far.
Yeah.
Everyone else pretty much could be good or bad. Like, we don't. Even some of our heroes, like we see them do some bad things over the course of this show. But so you can kind of pick an area of gray for them. But Keene, it just seems pretty clear. Like that dude sucks. So if Judd and him are connected, like that's probably what's going on there. But I also feel like, I don't know, this felt like a big reveal, but it's also, wait a second, like what happened in between here? Like why now? Like, has Will been hunting racist for these 80 years or whatever? Or like why did he go at this specific time and place to take care of the situation?
Well, we know that there's supposed to be a giant conspiracy going on in Tulsa. We just don't really know much about all that right now. Yeah. And how that ties into whatever the hell Lady True's doing. Man, it's like we get all these answers, but man, I have no idea what the hell is going to happen in these next 3 episodes. So
I really thought there was going to be more history between Will and Judd in that moment. Like, I think I was watching with my sister, and she was like, "Oh, well, maybe these people who strung him up originally, maybe there's some lineage between one of those guys or one of those old Cyclops guys to Judd, like an ancestor or whatever. Like maybe that's what's going on here." And I don't know, it really felt like there was going to be some reveal like that. But they're already connected enough because Will goes all over, and this specific period of time, it has to tie in with Angela because they're like related in this whole thing. But I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, like, Chad, what do you think? Do you think Will has been in like hibernation for decades, waiting for this one confluence of events? Like, what's going on?
Some sort of a deep space or deep state hibernation. I'm not sure, but I think that we are going to learn more about Judd and his, I don't know, what he truly was. I don't know which way to lean though. Did he or did he not say when Will's flashing the light thing at him, and kind of talking to him, asking questions. Did you or did you not say that the suit or the hood or whatever the heck you want to call it, I'm not sure, was like his grandfather's or something? He held on to it.
Yeah, it's his legacy.
His legacy, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's two ways you can take a legacy like that. You can either say, well, if you get rid of it and brush it under the rug, you're bound to forget it and repeat it, or I don't know. I don't know. Why would you want to keep on to something like that if you're not a bad dude? I just don't know. Yeah. So
he's definitely complex, no doubt about it.
But we definitely know how he died now. He did it by his own hands, but he was forced to. So
yeah, I was wrong. I was patting myself on the back for my early predictions, but from what it seems now, Will does not have superpowers.
No.
He's got a cool flashlight, but he does not have super strength or anything.
And I kind of feel better now, because for a while we were thinking there are definitely at least a couple of characters on this show that had some kind of otherworldly ability, but that's probably not the case at all. So that's good. That's the one thing that I might have had a problem with Lindelof messing with. Don't add any more superpowered dudes to this. That's the whole point. I get the mind stuff like Looking Glass and all that, but so anyway, I guess we kind of have a little twist here at the end as
we do.
Angela's coming to, and it appears to me she's in the Lady True complex, hooked up to some weird tubes and hanging out with none other than Lady True, who, basically her whole speech Christian gave at the beginning of the show. So not much there other than final what the fuck, don't be the end, oh shit moment. So
yeah.
Talk
about wanting the connection. She's like, wait a second, what how could she possibly get there? Like in what way would that happen? Like Lori and Lady True aren't homies. Like why? Like and especially with Lori, like something Eric brought up earlier, like Lori's like so protective and invested in what's happening with Angela. Like how could she let her get to that complex? Like what the hell happened?
The only thing I could think of at that moment in time was that Nostalgia was a Vite product, and Lady True, for all intents and purposes, owns and runs and operates all of Vite's stuff now. She bought him out. So obviously, or not obviously, but in my theory or my thought is that she has some sort of I don't know if it's an antidote or
detox,
a detox from it or whatever. So, but they talk about that stuff where it causes psychosis. So it's going to be interesting to see if like she suffers any ill effects, because I'm assuming it's psychosis either brought on by taking them for way too long or taking too many at once. I mean,
yeah, no, that's a good idea, Chad. But I'm still trying to figure out like, okay, but how are they connected? Yeah. Like, is Lori watching Angela in a coma and like, hey, I'm gonna call up Lady True and ask her about this? Like how? Yeah. Like who contacts who? Like what? And what is the information exchange that happens? Maybe it's going to be a simple explanation, but it feels really weird. And I think that's intended. I think they want to leave us with that WTF moment. But
I wonder if it's possible that there's some like it's a shared experience, like so between her and her grandfather, because he's obviously still alive and they're his memories. I wonder if there's some sort of a link that forms, so like he knows she's living, so all of the memories or something. Maybe I don't know.
Could be possible. Or Lady True has like a sleeper agent in the police department that is sent that information so that she could intervene.
She busted in and said, look, either hand her over, I'm going to buy the police department or whatever.
Billionaires always have whatever they want.
Yeah, so. She comes to Lori and offers her a baby that she's already created and is like, give me Angela.
And its last name will be Blake.
Right.
The good thing is though, if she doesn't want the baby, they do have the puppy
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, she dangles the baby over the puppy machine.
Oh, too soon? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's
For the
dark,
puppy?
but I mean it's a dark show.
All right, well, let's lighten the mood up, guys, and move into the Christian Ponders segment here for episode number 7 and beyond. Here, Christian, I'm sure you're going with the usual 3, and let's not forget when we get to long-term ponders, guys, you have to lock this in for the remainder of the show. So, Christian, what you got for your 3 short terms?
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting for all of us because this episode was so out there that we basically have like 2 weeks to predict the following episode. So I really had to do some head scratching on this one. So I've been on this kick of predicting location-based stuff. I did Vietnam. I did the Millennium Clock, which is still in play for a point next week. We'll see. I'm going to do another location-based one. Guys, I'm still thinking about Lube Man. And I'm thinking to myself, why does he have this lube? Like, what could he possibly do? Like, he can make himself more slippery for fights, I guess. But I mean, he's also going to try and punch and then
he's not
bounce
fighting.
off the
He's
shoes,
running
right?
away. He's running
Right.
away.
Makes him
So
really good at
that
the
doesn't
game
make
of
any
Limbo.
sense. So I can't see that lube being, well, there's also the one use of lube that we're all familiar with. But the main utility of this lube has got to be for him making these getaways, right? Like that's why he has this lube belt. So if that's the case, he's sliding into sewers regularly into the, so there's got to be something going on down there, right? So I'm predicting a scene in a sewer or underground somewhere. Like there's going to be some type of something going on underground because you can't just be sliding into sewers that often and not have some type of, I don't know, some type of thing you're doing besides standing in a sewer, right? So that's my first prediction.
So you're not connecting it specifically to Lube Man, though. You're just saying something in a sewer.
Yeah, you caught me. Yeah, I was trying to keep it a little open-ended just in case maybe, I don't know, maybe they stumble across Lube Man's thing and he's not actually there. So yes, I'm keeping it a little open.
Yeah, that's
doesn't
smart.
have to be
Smart maneuver.
But obviously the train of thought that I'm getting there is Lube Man's got to be out here just sliding into sewers all the time. So there's got to be some action going on down there, I'm assuming.
God, I hope so.
So that's number 1. Number 2, we got the hint with the email before. So I don't know when, maybe episode 7, but we've got to go back to whatever the fuck fell out of the sky in that farm intro. So my prediction is we do go back to that, or not necessarily go back to it, but we get more information about that. And in that thing that fell out of the sky is a person. That's my prediction. For even furthering the Superman connection. It's not a rock or a, whatever. It's not kryptonite. There's a person involved in whatever fell from the sky. Maybe it's Vite. I don't know. The last one, I gotta say here, I'll explain what my prediction is, but in my shorthand, I do these shorthand that, I don't know if, Eric, you edit it all out, but sometimes you're reading your notes, you don't even know what the hell you were talking about. I do that as well. I just put this shorthand, and sometimes I have to stare at it for 30 seconds and jog my memory. But the third one I wrote down was Lou Gossett HJ, which... but it might sound a lot more exciting than what my prediction actually is. So what I'm predicting is Old Will, the Louis Gossett Jr. actor of Will. We're gonna see him. We're gonna see him like with his costume or put the hood on or something. Like we're gonna see him directly connected to the Hooded Justice costume or iconography in some way.
I love it.
Nice.
That's a great one.
Nice. All right, Christian, long-term ponders. What are you locking in?
Yeah, I'm locking it in for forever. I never changed. I've felt this way from the beginning. The cavalry is planning something for a specific date. Some type of event is going to happen. We're building towards it. Maybe this won't come true till episode 9. I have no idea, but it's got to be. Like I feel like I'm so close to cashing this one in. But Cavalry's planning something on a specific date, and we'll find out what that is. 'Cause I think I'm right.
So just to clarify here, so the cavalry indeed does do something, and there's like no mention at all of the date or whatever. That's no credit. They got to specifically connect it to a date, like so where we hear audibly like whatever.
I would say like there's been a little bit of a hint already, like someone said a number of like, if we see the cavalry is going to do this in 2 days and like we're planning towards that and they're building towards this event, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know necessarily that the date is going to like mean something, but like they're preparing for a specific day. Like it's not just going to be like whatever the cavalry's plan is, it's not just going to happen randomly. Like they're planning it for this particular event, whenever it's going to be.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, Chad. Short term.
So what's the verdict? I mean, can I reuse? Like, I thought of doubling down on all of them, but I've already at least changed one.
So, all right. So you can do whatever you want. Doesn't bother me. I've been self-regulating that I wouldn't recycle because I said like on the first episode that I think Will was a masked guy. It didn't happen the next episode or the episode after, and I haven't recycled that because I thought, well, I already did that. That was my thing, but yeah. I'm not gonna.
You know, I haven't really recycled any yet, and okay,
it's up to you.
Here's the one I'm definitely changing this one. Okay, I might have to come up with 2 on the fly, but that's cool. I'm fine with that. Part of me wants to reason because I think I could just score horse some points here, but. One of them that I'm changing is the new one, I should say. Lori is actually going to discuss the memories of Will with Lady True. So basically, change it from the Angela, or not Lori. I wrote down. I had the wrong thought. Angela will discuss the memories of Will with Lady True instead of Angela discussing with Lori. And obviously, it's not about what actually happened. Well, she might discuss what happened with Judd, but I think she's just going to talk about the memories with Lady True. I think that's kind of where we're going to head off. And it's possibly in the first part, but at least some point in time. The other one I think I'm going to lock in, and I'm going to have to kind of put this together, is what I was talking about at the end, where I think that we're going to also find out that somehow Will knew she had taken the pills. Not that they. This isn't they wanted her to take the pills. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but somehow he knew she had taken the pills.
Like some kind of psych or something some kind of connection. He felt it in the Force or something.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, they did. I mean, they did talk about it. Yeah, when Will and Lady True talked, like they talked about how they would. Why don't you just tell her? Well, she needs to be shown. So, I mean, they definitely are planning on her taking these pills. It's hard to, like I said, I don't know if they figured she just swallowed the whole bottle or whatever, but yeah. And then if you don't swallow the whole bottle, what do you take one at a time, you just get random non-chronological memories, or what the hell? I don't know. The logistics of nostalgia, I guess we're just going to have to accept.
I gotta hammer out my third one here. It's definitely going to be a Vite thing. I just don't know if I want to stick with the challenging the warden. I'm going to do because I think it's going to happen, but I could also still get a point anyhow. So I think I'm going to say that Vite. Oh, hold on. I might. I'm gonna. It's Viteland. I'm gonna go with Viteland 1, and I'm gonna say we will see cake again. I'm gonna go back to the cake. I'd come with that
more
one.
cake stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the other one I was thinking of is maybe just possibly he's going to actually escape this next episode. But I feel like with what we saw and what went down with the warden, he's got something he's got to settle with the warden before he's going to escape. So So I'm going to say we're going to see a cake again.
All right. I'm gonna have to go ahead of you, Chad, next time, because this is like the third week in a row.
Okay.
I mean, mine's more detailed than that, but I had to go back to the cake. So. Yeah. All right, so yeah, my second prediction was the cake one, so I'll just say that now. I think the game warden is gonna eat himself some cake.
Cake. Wow.
I'm not going to roll this into the prediction, but it may just be poisoned or something when he takes it too. But I see the game warden eating some cake. I think Wade, who I think I've already stated, I think he will live. I'll get a point next week if that happens. But I'm going to double down on Wade. I'm going to say somehow Wade is connected to however Angela got out of custody and over to Lady True. I think Wade has some either direct or indirect connection with making that happen. So
cool.
Just by his basis of reading people, he's got to know something from somewhere. I mean, I'm not just talking about just like what you're saying. He's got to know somebody was, feeding him a line of BS. I don't know.
And for my third, I called for the end of Pirate Jenny last time. I still think I might get a point there, but hey, let's go with Red Scare getting killed in this next episode. So
I will cry.
You will.
So many.
Oh, I won't. I won't miss Red. I mean, he's given us some good comedy, but I'm definitely not going to miss Red. So. There you go,
we
guys.
Gotta get
perfect segue.
And Panda talking about the segments from American Hero Story.
Did I take your long-term, Chad?
No, you didn't.
Did I skip you? Okay,
yet.
What's your long-term lock-in here?
I'm going to lock in with the Adrian Veidt is actually trapped in the statue. So
right.
This other part isn't part of my long-term, but when he breaks out, when he finally sets himself free somehow, I think you're going to see him crash out of it. I don't know why. What throws this one way off is the fact that when he got up on his little moon or whatever the hell that was above Mars or Jupiter or whatever the hell planet it was, is that you see this satellite watching him. So that kind of throws a lot of this one out. But I just don't see any of my other ones like. I don't know. Redford playing himself as president was probably one of my other ones that is one of my favorites, which may not happen. So I'm just going to stick with it.
All right. For me, I'm going to go back to my first lock-in. I know it's got to ride the whole season out, but I guess I'm fine with that. It's the one I feel the most confident about. Dr. Manhattan, a no-show for the series, or at least the first season, is what I'm saying. There may be mention of him. I'm sure there'll be mention of him, but I'm saying there will be no actor playing Dr. Manhattan show up on screen. I mean, even if it's like a CG actor or something, I'm not going to try and get away on a technicality there or whatever, but I will take my lumps if that's the case. But no Dr. Manhattan, my long-term ponders, so... Can't declare victory on that one until the last episode. It's going to be awfully tough for me at this point to catch up to Christian anyway. So whatever. I'm always going just for left field shit. So whatever. Could be some serious points scored next week because some things are going to have to get moving here in the present time. So, all right, guys, good luck. Looking forward to it. Oh, Chad.
Yep.
Twitter challenge. What happened last week? Well,
so I did several looks through trying to find Andrew Howard, and obviously I IMDb'd him, and then I saw his face, and I was like, oh, that's who Andrew Howard is. He's actually in a show called The Outpost, which I watched all the first season, and sadly I haven't. The second season's already done. It's a CW show. It's actually produced and made by Jonathan Glassner, who was from the Stargate series. So he was involved in all of them from pretty much the beginning. And then also Dean Devlin, who was part of the original movie. So these two guys who, for all intents and purposes, I want to say they didn't get along, because they do. How do I say this? Basically, they didn't have anything to do with each other because Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich never cared for the series, and it sounds like that's a lot in the past. And these two were able to work together and do this show called The Outpost, which I really liked. So to find out who this guy was, I was like, man, I hope he's on Twitter. So I go and I start searching, and I don't find him. But what I do decide to do, and I decided to follow two things that I just searched for Red Scare. One is Red Scare Industries, which apparently they're an independent record label based in Chicago. They say pump fists, not gas. I don't really know much about them other than what I just read to you there and a few of the things I've read on them. The other thing I did was I decided to follow, because of what we do in some of the other podcasts, Red Scare Theater Company, a non-profit company dedicated to staging dynamic productions of contemporary scripted work out of Wellington, New Zealand. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I did. I didn't tweet them or do anything because I didn't really know what I'd say. But I'm going to follow them for a little while, see how they go, and maybe they're a follow back type organization, and maybe they'll follow me back and I'll get number 30 because I'm still at 29 people. So.
Oh my God, what is going on with this segment, Christian? I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this. Oh my God.
So all right, so no actor who plays Red Scare on Twitter. That's the moral of the story.
That's the moral of the story.
All right.
This is so good, guys. This is so good. You're welcome, listeners.
I'm still wondering. I know we have the largest listener base, especially compared to the old show, but we talk about Twitter every episode. No, Chad hasn't gotten a follower in all weeks. Like someone who's like, you know what, fine, I'll go follow at TP Bookhouse. They don't want to. Maybe they're gonna mute you immediately, but just get them to 30, guys. Come on.
Yeah. At TP Bookhouse. I mean.
All right. So Chad's Twitter challenge, quite the segment, the most important segment of the podcast, obviously.
By far.
You guys have probably been able to pick up that sometimes my picks are a little tongue-in-cheek here when I'm giving out these assignments. I almost went that direction again. Eric actually brought up my backup Twitter challenge option. We talked about him at the top of the show, but I don't think I'm going to go that way. This was a sincere episode. This was a Will-heavy episode. So, Chad, I think Jovan Adepo earned your follow. That's young Will Reeves, the main Will Reeves that we see for this episode. Maybe it's Jovan, I don't know, Jovan Adepo, Jovan Adepo. Great highlight of him this episode. Find him on Twitter, and if you do tweet at him, be nice. This is a great episode. He deserves some kindness out there.
Okay. I accept the challenge, and I will do as horribly as I possibly can, likely. No, there's not much I can do if I can't find a person. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in and checking out another episode of We're Watching the Watchmen. You can always email us, watchwatchmanpod@gmail.com. Call or text the voicemail line anytime, 608-535-9302. It takes a few rings. Just let it go. You will get our voicemail. Leave us a message, guys. Tell us what you think of Watchmen so far, your theories, your thoughts on the podcast, whatever. We want to hear from you here at the show. My name, Eric. You can find me on the Flicksation podcast, or, hey, any of you guys that really dig this show, and you haven't already, give Twin Peaks a go. It's readily available on a few different sources, so at least the first 2 seasons. Check it out and live through the Bookhouse podcast again, guys. Follow this group of guys as we talked about every episode of Twin Peaks and many more. So, Bookhouse podcast, one of the great great times in my life of podcasting, guys. A lot of fun for sure. Check it out. Otherwise, I'm on Twitter, Hazer, Hazer75. Christian, thanks, man. Busy times coming up here with the holidays and movies and everything that's dropping all at the same time. Fantastic stuff, Christian.
Yeah, it's a wonderful time of year. It's cool outside. It's starting to rain out here, even in California. I'm trying to get a stranglehold on my fantasy football leagues. That seems to be going pretty well so far. Having a decent showing.
Oh, how nice for you. How nice for you, you son of a bitch. Oh.
For listeners who don't know, Eric was my kryptonite in fantasy football for a couple of years, but this year I took down the beast. I took down the squid himself. So,
guys, I lost to Al twice. Bad news, guys. I look back on my record. 1997 is the last time I finished under 500 in fantasy football. God. So always pull even, but right now it's not looking good, guys. Not looking good. And I am in bad shape in all of my leagues. It is ugly. I don't know. And they're not really the same teams. So there's years where I have a lot of the same guys. That is not the case this year. And nothing is working out for me. I don't know what the hell's going on, but rough.
Well, since I was bragging there a little bit, let me just finish that thought and say in one of my leagues, I drafted James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster, both of the Steelers. Both have been hurt most of the year, and when they have played, most of the games have been pretty shitty. And in that league, I'm tied for first place. So I've really pulled that one out of my ass. So I'm hoping that's my finest moment, but I'm always a regular season guy, and then I totally tank in the playoffs. I have very few titles to my name, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, movies, fantasy football, podcasts. That's another thing. I have a couple other podcasts. One mentioned on the show already. We got a listener from It's Only a Podcast. If you're on this side of the podcast universe that I inhabit, you can go check out the other corners. It's Only a Podcast. We talk about horror movies over there. For the most recent episode that we released this week, it was a grab bag. We couldn't find one movie that demanded to be talked about, so we talked about a ton. We talked about The Nightingale. We talked about Them That Follow, The Intruder, the Dennis Quaid thriller. That was a whole thing. So it's a whole bunch of recent horror movies that we talked about over there. Check that out. And then on the Third Act podcast, we record a new episode that's probably going to launch or drop right around the time this comes out, maybe a day or so before. I should have that ready to go. We talked about Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. So that was a great conversation. Did a long-form conversation on that one. We're big Marty guys. So check that out. That's on the Third Act podcast. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at AnotherXTIAN.
Chad, always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's good to be here, and a lot of fun. It was it's a very heavy episode to watch, but very, very well done. But if you guys do want to go out there, want to go follow me, find me at TP Bookhouse, TPBOOKHOUSE. I could use a few more followers, as we've discussed. We got our we've talked about it already, but our Flicksmith episode coming up, and I'm really looking forward to getting into the old, Flicksation studios and listening to what the new Flicksation singers have new for us this year. Should be a lot of fun. I still don't know what I'm watching yet, but Armando, he's never quick.
You better ask him, or it probably won't happen, Chad. So
I get to pick
make sure he's thinking about it. All right, guys. Yeah, it's going to be great. Another week. Talking episode 7. Some shit's going to have to get in gear here, so we'll see where the direction heads for the final 3 episodes of this show. So one quick idea I was having, guys, and maybe this will be nothing. Who knows? I just thought I'd throw it out there, but back in the Bookhouse podcast, we were known for, on occasion, having our like coffee and pie episodes. I was thinking about making episode 8 of Watchmen something.
Eggs?
Something like, well, yeah, what are you going to, hard-boiled eggs?
Excellent.
Egg salad sandwiches.
Eggs and calamari.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, I'll give you guys a week to figure out what we should, if the listeners have any suggestions, something like that, let us know. We'll take anything witty or clever, for sure. So I will hash out here on episode 7 what we'll be bringing with us to episode 8. So think about it, guys. Think about it. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you soon.